curfew is over in downtown LA. LA Mayor Bass is checking on the businesses that suffered some of the worst damage. Downtown LA restaurant owners speaking frankly to the mayor, reminding her they need all the foot traffic they can get. Mayor Bass also repeating her appeal to the Trump administration.
In light of the fact that LA is peaceful, there's no protest, there isn't any sign of vandalism or violence, I would call on the administration to please remove the troops.
She says the National Guard members are making a sacrifice for no good reason at all. We know there's a big legal battle over this concept. Let's talk more about that with the LA City Attorney, Hydee Feldstein Soto. Welcome back. Good to see you.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
So this case, which is literally labeled Newsom versus Trump, is before the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals about who should control the National Guard. Obviously, Newsom thinks he should. Trump thinks he should. You filed an amicus brief, which is a friend of the court brief, saying Newsom should. What's your main argument?
Well, first of all, Governor Newsom's authority is statutory. If you look at what President Trump invoked, he needed to go through the governor to put to federalize the National Guard to put on our streets. My objection even goes beyond that. My objection is, to the best of our knowledge and contemporary memory, there has never been an instance in which federalized troops, the National Guard, much less the Marines, have come onto city streets without a request from local authorities. It is outrageous to me that we have 4,800 military folks on our streets. That's more than half the size of my LAPD.
And there was a request for 2,000 more that was made yesterday.
I actually am trying to get what that is. There were 2,000 that were called up and placed on the streets. There were another 2,000 that had been deployed but not yet called up.
Yeah.
It is not clear to me whether we've gone from 2,000 to the full 4,000 deployment or whether they're up to 6,000, and I'm trying to get clarity on that.
You know, the Trump administration says if they weren't there, the city would be burning.
Nonsense.
That's literally what he said.
Nonsense. Okay? Seriously, that's abject nonsense. If you take a look at the facts, the city of Los Angeles, if you include water, inland waters, is 502 square miles. It's 469 square miles of land. The county of Los Angeles is almost 5,000 square miles. Population of the city is close to 4 million people on any given day, and of the county it's 12 million. What we're talking about is less than a square mile in downtown LA, where they're playing the same reels and the same tapes over and over and over again. It is the same 1 square mile that after the Dodgers won held 200,000 people. And the LAPD is perfectly capable of handling these kinds of protests.
Although that wasn't the best day in history in terms of what happened with the LAPD that day. But let's just talk about this incident, though. Do you think that what the Trump administration really wants with these troops is to protect ICE agents for raids? And it isn't really about protecting these buildings. It's about having a force to be able to go out and take people out of the community.
I don't pretend to know what the Trump administration is doing. It is unprecedented. Whether what you're doing is trying to enforce immigration laws or you're trying to quell protests, here's the bottom line. As much as you may quarrel with less lethals, LAPD has lots of tools in their tool chest. They have tasers, they have less lethals, they have batons, they have horses, they have all kinds of weapons short of an assault rifle. Mm-hmm. The military, whether it's the National Guard or the Marines, has one tool, and that is an assault rifle with a bullet. And anytime a peace officer feels threatened, they're entitled to use deadly force. So what I would submit to you is that with close to 1 million undocumented immigrants in LA County, please let our local law enforcement handle it. There is nothing in the California Values Act or in our city sanctuary law that stops us from prosecuting, arresting, apprehending dangerous criminals. We do it all the time.
Well, let's talk about your efforts to do that. So we saw these violent protests, riots, whatever word you want to use to describe some of what we saw downtown Los Angeles. We saw some of those familiar anarchists that come up and cause lots of problems, who really don't care that much about immigration but like to cause problems. You're one of the people who gets to prosecute some of these people. You prosecute the misdemeanors. Nathan Hochman prosecutes the felonies. Bill Asaley, the U.S. attorney, also getting involved, looking at the federal issues. What's the latest in terms of what's happening with your office in terms of prosecuting people involved from last week?
As of yesterday, we had 22 referrals from the LAPD. We have filed charges on 15 individuals, and we have declined prosecution in 7 cases. When we decline prosecution, it's usually for lack of sufficient evidence to prove the elements of a crime beyond a reasonable doubt. I will also say that with respect to the 15 people that we have charged, they were all involved in some kind of violence.
So what kind of charges are we talking about?
Battery on a peace officer, whether by throwing an object or by resisting arrest. Any kind of violent conduct in our streets is something that we will go after if it's not gone after by the DA.
So one of the questions that's come out of this is this sanctuary city and sanctuary state policy. We've had on Bill Asaley, the U.S. Attorney. We had Catherine Barger, the chair of the LA County Board of Supervisors, and both of them said that the policy makes Californians less safe because essentially what it does is it prohibits a lot of ICE from going into the jails and arresting people there and taking them out there, and instead they're in the streets trying, and other people get caught up in it, and it would be safer to do this behind bars. I know California works on the most dangerous criminals and hands them over to ICE, but it's a limited number. What do you say to people who say the California sanctuary policy makes us less safe?
The sanctuary policy actually starts with what was Special Rule 40 of the LAPD, which was passed in 1979 by the then Police Board of Commissioners and then Chief Darrell Gates.
Right.
What I would note is that it was originally intended to be to make us all safer, because Los Angeles had such a large immigrant community that what was happening were people weren't reporting crimes and people were refusing to come testify as witnesses to get the dangerous people behind bars because they were afraid of being deported. So our law enforcement agencies actually led with, this makes people safer. We want folks to cooperate with local law enforcement to stop murder, felonies, robbery, theft, burglary. We want them to tell us when they see something without fear of being deported.
Do you think that's still true in 2025?
I do. As a matter of fact, I think if you look at the history since 1979, crime has gone down nearly every year. And some of that is we have almost 1 million immigrants in LA County, 1 million people who do not have documentation status.
Illegal immigrants in LA County, probably even more if you count. Yeah.
1 million undocumented
Okay.
folks. How's that? But if you count their extended families,
Yeah.
you're talking a full 20 to 25% of the population of Los Angeles County that is in mixed status families.
Yeah.
You can't arrest your way out of that. You can't arrest 25% of our population. So from my perspective, if you're going to start this kind of an enforcement, you start the way President Reagan did, or President Clinton did. You basically provide an avenue for the people who are here, who've lived here for 10, 20, 30 years, to come and paying taxes, paying payroll taxes, to come forward and find a path to legally stay. And then, yes, you go round up criminals. But going to schools with elementary schools with little kids, going to workplaces, what is a seamstress going to do? Throw her sewing machine at you? These are not dangerous criminals.
Yeah, and some of that would involve Congress getting involved, which so far they've not been interested in doing. Hydee, Feldstein, Soto, thanks for sharing your views. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And we are grateful to have a bunch of different perspectives here on the show. All right, Adam.